Corals are one of the first ecosystems to start showing signs of major global stress because they are so sensitive. You know, they can experience minor fluctuations in temperature that can lead to bleaching and stuff like that. We call them the canary in the coal mine. Coal miners used to go down in the mine, they bring a canary in a cage with them because if there was dangerous fumes, the canary's gonna drop dead. And that tells you like it's time to get out of here. My name's Cody Clements. I'm from the US. I'm a scientist. I'm doing my PhD in biology, but I specialize in coral reef ecology. But people don't even know, they think it's just a rock or something, you know. And technically it is a rock, it's an animal that makes a skeleton of calcium carbonate. So they have a symbiotic relationship with a dinoflagellate algae, which is called zooxanthellae, which produces their food for them. So that's why they grow in these waters that are like well-lit waters, you know, in tropical regions of the world. And actually, we keep talking about bleaching. When corals experience stressors like high temperatures, they expel their zooxanthellae, and that's why they have that white color. Like that pretty purple color we saw in the corals, that's because of their zooxanthellae. We have scientists all over the world taking data on corals, and the trends are pretty clear that coral cover is declining pretty dramatically. I've personally seen mass bleaching events going on in Fiji in the past few years. It's kind of like a cocktail of stressors that corals are facing. So overfishing is a big thing. You have bleaching, you have runoff from the land, wastewater and things. We've been having outbreaks of these sea stars, so their populations basically explode and they eat the coral. The good news is that we have these coral planting efforts going on all around the world trying to rehabilitate corals. So you're seeing more marine protected areas being set up throughout the Pacific. It's now coming on people's radar that that's an important thing to do, is set aside areas so they can rehabilitate it and can recover. The experiment I took you to out there is varying the number of species present in the coral community to see how that impacts the performance of the corals, so their growth, tissue mortality of the corals, colonization by seaweeds. So I basically did an experiment that was similar in Fiji, and I found that in coral communities where there were less species, they grew less, they had greater tissue death, and they had more colonization by seaweed. We always talk about how important biodiversity is, so it's basically a scientific test of that notion. There's been many tests like that conducted in other ecosystems, so like in grasslands and things like that. There's never been like a manipulative experiment conducted on coral reefs like that. And coral reefs are one of the most biodiverse systems on Earth, so you want to increase the efficiency of these planting efforts.